got me a little problem. I'm wanting to turn some bowls that are actually larger than the capacity of my lathe. Which, you know, biggest problem there is actually finishing it. I don't have a way of securing the bowl so I can finish the bottom. Because I can always turn my headstock, but I don't have a way of attaching to the bottom. So I thought about a vacuum chuck, and I'm like, no. I really think I want to build a Longworth Chuck. So anyway, to make the bigger bowls, I've got to build a Longworth Chuck. So, in order to build a Longworth Chuck, I need a Trammel for my router, so I can cut perfect circles. Okay, and this is what I came up with right here. Okay, it's adjustable. You can adjust the pin right here. You can adjust it back and forth, and it'll do up to about a 48-inch circle down to about an 8-inch circle. So anyway, the way I made this, I'm going to show in this video how I did it. It's a router base that I made. It's attached to an adjustable Trammel arm, and that's really about it. But I'll show you how I did that. Let's get started on that. Well, to start with, I'm going to cut the Trammel arm 2 inches wide, and this piece is about 24-25 inches long. I'll be trimming that down later. This piece has been jointed and planed, and then I'm gonna cut the router base from here. It's 3.5 inches wide and 5.5 inches long. And I'm just going to kind of joint this, planing it down just to make sure it's good and flat. And this is going to be my router base. Starting out, I'm using the base from my router, and you can use any size router you would like. I'm just using my trim router, and I'm just going to draw all the way around, tracing out the base, and cut it out on the bandsaw. Always leave the lines cut outside the line so you can sand down to them and get everything just right. And we'll take it over to the sander and just trim it. Use the sander to trim it down right to the line. Okay, we'll remove the old base plate off the router, the factory base plate, so I can get my screw holes marked. Okay, just set it on there and start marking out for my screw holes. Okay, drill them out. Now a lot of router bases use odd pattern screw patterns, so you need to make sure that your router is oriented the way you want it to before you drill the holes. Okay, so I'm getting ready to countersink. And I'll place my router on, just testing. And I'll mark out, trace out around the edges again, so I can I'll cut out a little neck on here so that I can mount it to my Trammel arm. And you can see here where I've marked, it's 2 inches wide, and this is where my Trammel arm will be. It'll be like a half lap joint. It's about 2.5 inches long. set my depth on my table saw to a 1/4 inch, which is the same thickness as the router base. Make sure you get top dead center to make sure that you get the right depth. And then I'll just dado all this out, just making a half lap joint right here on the table saw. And I'm just using the blade instead of a dado blade. I could have used a router or a dado blade or whatever, but I just decided to use a table saw since this was all I had to do. All I'm doing is making a half lap joint. Okay, now I'm just easing over the corners. I'm using my old router base just to kind of tangent off all the lines, just so I get a nice even transition between the two. And I'll take it over to the bandsaw and I'll cut this out. Just cutting out the neck and the little transition piece, kind of a profile. Just want it to look nice. And this is a 1/4 inch mahogany, by the way, 1/4 inch thick. And I'll go back to the sander, sand it back down to the lines. Now we'll attach the new router base to the router base plate. Make sure that they're countersunk below the surface. Right now for the Trammel arm, I'm going to need a 3/16 groove all the way down, all the way through, and all the way down to about 21 inches. And with the 4 inches from the router center, this will give me about a 24 inch circle, or a 24 inch reach for a 48 inch circle, sorry. Okay, I'll mark all the way around. And this will be the center point of my end. So as I bring my router bit down, I'll bring it to that line, and the router bit, that'll be centered on the router bit. To that line on my fence right there. Bring that line to that line, and I'll be good to go. Fire it up, make the first cut, drop it down, back it to the line, and then route the channel. Take it all the way to the other line. Flip the piece over and do the exact same thing again. I'll do this in multiple passes to get all the way through. Each pass is about a little over an 1/8 inch thick. So I'll make several passes until I get all the way through. And this will be just my groove for my adjustment, my little adjusting carriage. And I'll switch to a 3/4 inch bit, and I'll cut another channel about an 1/8 inch deep to accommodate my carriage bolt head. Same way, right to the line. Being very careful because you do have a spinning router bit inside that open channel there. So always be aware of where your fingers and hands are. Once that's done, our Trammel arm is almost ready. Goes all the way through. I'll flip it over just to make sure it's dead center, and do the other side. This will make it a little bit wider, but that won't hurt anything. Right to the ends. Okay, now we're ready. And you can see how the bolt just slides in the channel. So now for my half lap, I'm going to glue the router base plate to the trammel arm. Make sure you get your glue evenly spread. Clamp it in place. Alright, and we'll just let that dry. And in the meantime, I'll start working on my carriage. The carriage will start out like a T, just a T-shaped carriage to fit in the slot on the trammel arm. It'll fit nice and snug in the trammel arm, and it may take a little, trial and error, but you'll get it. You just want a nice fit where it slides evenly, but there's no slop. Okay, I'll drill a hole for my bolt. It's a 3/8 bolt that'll go down through there. It's a carriage bolt, and I'll also drill a 3/16 hole to accommodate my pin for my center pin. And I'll use a 3/16 brass rod for that, which is right here. Put it in, hammer it down, and I'll secure it with some CA glue. Secure it right there with that. I'll start my assembly. I have a knob left over from an old project. I'll put the bolt in from the bottom. Make sure it mates up into the channel. I'll add a washer and my knob. The knob has a 3/8 nut inserted into it. That's what it screws into. You can see it slides very easily, but when I lock it down, it doesn't move. Okay, so now I've got a pin and a sliding mechanism. So now we're ready. Now I need to find the center point down in the bottom. I need to find the center point of that router base plate. So I'll put my router in with a V-groove bit, tap on the back a little bit, and it'll leave a small mark right in the dead center. And I'll use a Forstner bit, a 1-inch Forstner bit, and I'll drill that out. I believe I already did that. I don't think you can see the 1-inch hole. I just used a 1-inch Forstner bit right there on that center point. I'll reattach the router base after I did that. Now to test it, I've just got a piece of plywood here. I'm going to put a 3/16 hole in the center. Set up my trammel. The pin just drops right into that hole. I'll set my trammel up to the outside there somewhere. Lock it down, and I'll just see if I get a perfect circle. Alright, there it is. I can make about a 48-inch circle with it, and you see it holds good. It made a good circle on this plywood here. It's a 23-inch circle. That's actually gonna be my Longworth Chuck, or part of it anyway. And I was just gonna do the outer edge of it. Wow, it's gonna be a big bowl. But anyway, this is my adjustable router trammel. And you know, there's a lot of different ways of making these things. But I wanted one that I can use over and over and over, and it would be really accurate, really tight, and this is what I came up with. Lots of videos on YouTube of how you can make these things, different ways and things like that. And this is kind of a culmination of my Trammel that I have over there for my compass, for my pencil, and a few other ideas. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm going to try to get my Longworth Chuck made in my next video, so everybody can see how I did that. And it's really been kind of bad weather around here. It's been a little while since I've made a video. Been a little under the weather, and Georgia's crazy. One night it'll be 20, the next day it's 60 degrees. It's just crazy weather, and it keeps you all kind of messed up in the head. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and maybe you'll go build your own Trammel for your rider. It's a fairly easy build, and I'll see y'all down the road.